It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this. I'm hitting the wrong buttons. Welcome to the Game Mess Show live featuring Jeff Grubb. There's some updates. Let's go over them. I'm going to be facing away from it again, but that's all right. Actually, let me bring it up over here in my browser so that we can more accurately take a look at everything here. So, yes, the Game Mess has had a few updates, some stuff that was announced publicly. I think just a few things that are still kind of not officially announced, but are pretty easy to put your finger on if you know what's happening. We'll get to that, and I'll tell you guys what I've heard. Let's start. We've already gone through the French Direct last week, Future Games Show. That's both of those are happening this week. We now know what that Microsoft event is. It is the ID at Xbox show. And there's going to be a lot of indie games. To me, it's way more exciting than I thought it was going to be. Because my understanding was no first party games, so don't get excited. And I didn't put two and two together in my head that Nintendo doesn't seem to be doing their Indie World Showcase this year, at least as far as I can tell. So if they're not doing that, there's a lot of indie games out there that are like looking for a home in March. And it looks like ID at Xbox is stepping up and giving a home to a lot of that stuff. So let me bring it up. Let's just take a look at it. The Twitch posted this image today, hyping up some of the other games that will be there. They've already said stuff like Second Extinction's going to be there, a few other ones, XO1, a few other games in the press release. This image here, though, gives us a few more clues. This was out on Twitter now, and this has 12 minutes up there at the top. Hades, Shredders, which is apparently a snowboarding game, Hello Neighbors 2, Scavengers, which is a free-to-play cooperative shooter, I believe. Second Extinction, as we mentioned, it's the dinosaur, I think, cooperative shooter. I think there's gonna be a lot of cooperative shooters coming up, and the Gunk, which I'm very excited about. Actually, 12 minutes, Hades and the Gunk alone are pretty exciting. Shredders, I don't know anything about. I'm gonna have to look into that. 12 minutes is I think it has. Is that the one with Willem Dafoe? Am I making that up? There's some like famous actors in that one doing the voices for characters, and you play the same 12-minute sequence over and over and try to figure out how to do it so that I think your wife doesn't die. I've never really played it, and really I'm like, okay, I'm sold on the concept. I'll just play it when it comes out, so I don't know much about it. Hades, some people were telling me that the rumors are that this is going to be on Game Pass. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. But man, does it need to go on Game Pass at first? I don't know. I feel like that game's going to sell wherever it goes. After the word of mouth it had on Switch and PC. Shredders, I'm dying for anything new with snowboarding or skiing. Any sort of snow sports. We just got another snowstorm here in Colorado last night. Like we got like 6 more inches. And I'm loving it. I love late March snowstorms. And I really would love to go snowboarding. But video game snowboarding is a good analog. So I'm very down for that. Hello Neighbors 2. I know there's a lot of fans for that game. That is Hello Neighbors 2, right? That one I didn't actually double check very well. That looks like that's that art style though. And then Second Extinction. It's like Left 4 Dead but with dinosaurs. I really want to do that. But the Gunk is from Image and Form. They did one of the best games ever made, which is SteamWorld Dig 2. F Mike Minotti for not even really trying that game. He tried it, he says, and doesn't. He said he didn't like it or he wasn't jiving with it. But we all just know that Mike Minotti is a piece of filth. Hi, Mike. You know what? Let's do a quick victory lap if in case Mike does end up watching. I put up a poll on Twitter and on the YouTube channel asking people if they thought the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color if the Game Boy Color was a revision or a separate platform from the Game Boy. Overwhelmingly, people voted in favor of Jeffrey Grubb and saying that Game Boy Color is a revision of the Game Boy. Mike not feeling too hot about that, and he saw this shirt today and he was feeling pretty upset about it. So yeah. All right, so let's go over the rest of the list. We've talked about Nintendo a bunch of times now. It doesn't seem like they're having an Indie World Showcase, right? Normally they have that in March to coincide with GDC. Looking around, doesn't seem like they're doing that. They even mentioned Indie World is a year old today. They're having some contest, and then I don't think they said anything about an Indie World happening. Sick in the chat is saying that an ID at Xbox rep has said Hades isn't featured in Friday's show. FYI. Thank you. Okay, so maybe we can't even trust that image. I think that's a weird one. I bet that game is probably coming to Xbox at some point soon. But like featured in the show, maybe there's something separate there. Maybe it's something they just like mention later in a press release. I guess we'll see. But yeah, back to Nintendo. We know Nintendo needs to do something soon and say and like tell us what's going on after the Mario event, but that might not necessarily happen for the Mario stuff. It's probably going to happen sometime in April. We'll see what the communication around that actually is. And we'll see like what the execution of Mario actually looks like. We talked about Age of Empires 4. We've said that a couple times. I think we should be expecting a lot from that event for that game. And again, not a lot from first party Microsoft between now and the E3. That April 10th Age of Empires showcase is kind of it in terms of first party from Microsoft until then. We did get a new event though. In April, Capcom says they're going to have the Resident Evil showcase, another Resident Evil showcase. They've already done one of these. They're going to do another, and they worded it. I don't have the exact phrasing here, but the way that the Capcom Unity blog puts it is very suggestive, isn't it? They're like, we're not going to tell you what's there, but we're going to let you guys basically let your imaginations run rampant. There was no attempt to dial down the excitement. They were just like, yeah, go buck wild with whatever you think is going to be there. And like, why would you do that unless you're going to deliver a lot? I don't know, my kid is right there playing with all our toys as loudly as she possibly can. I hope NVIDIA Broadcast is getting most of that. But I mean, to me, that's like, okay, so how wild can they get? We know Village is coming. Resident Evil 4 remake, would they even mention that at this point? I don't think so. But whoever wrote that blog post might regret that if speculation really does run as rampant as it could on the internet, which has happened before. I don't know if anyone is aware of that. Okay, let's scroll down a little bit. This new one right here. Mayish Battlefield 6 reveal. I think the Battlefield 6 reveal is going to be in May. Let's say by May. It's not gonna. They're not gonna wait till E3 to do that. I think that's something that we've seen them do before. But it also coincides with what I'm hearing. I've heard that they're gonna try to do it by May. And I think that makes a lot of sense. So have you been waiting for Battlefield 6, waiting for news on that? It's not going to be called Battlefield 6. That's just the name I put there. So I guess we call it Battlefield 2021. But yeah, they should show it then. And yes, it's still, as far as I know, it's a modern combat game, and they're going to talk about it soon. So just a few more months to wait for that one. Anything else? We've already gone over how some publishers are already slipping from June to July. The game mess is already extending. I've talked about that in a previous show. That is still the case. I'll have more on that, like specifics at some point. And I'll have more specifics about how E3 is actually shaping up in conjunction with the ESA in about, I would imagine, in less than a month. Trying to like gather information before I put stuff up on that list or before I say definitive things in this show or on Twitter, because everything becomes a news story. I found out. Okay, let's take questions. I didn't update the chat window so that you won't be able to see the chat. So I'm not going to put the chat in the video. Let's just talk through it. You guys send me questions in chat if you have anything. I'll scroll through and see if there's anything that has been asked so far. Xbox's social, this is from OMG Turtle 73. Xbox's social media keeps stating that Twitch put this showcase together. Should we expect it more to be like an advertisement than something more exciting? I think that's a fair question, and I think that's possible. Hang on. I think that's possible. I think that's I'm excited for it based on the games that we're hearing will be there, that they've already said are going to be there. And then on this image. Now, this image is like Twitch over promising and then potentially under delivering. That's going to be an issue, right? If like they just threw Hades in there because Hades is an indie game and Hades has nothing to do with this event and nothing to do with Xbox, and it's not coming to Xbox for quite some time, that's a misstep, and it could be a potential problem. And then as for the tone of the event, I think it's going to feel like, I mean, what's the difference between an advertisement and what these events normally feel like? So to me, that's like a distinction without a difference. But I will say I would expect it to feel pretty close to like other ID at Xbox stuff or the Nintendo Indie World showcases that we've had in the past. All right, let's scroll down. Is Battlefield 6 going to be cross-gen or next/current gen only? I don't know. This is me guessing. I would say it's going to be cross-gen. It's a big game. They're going to need a lot of players to support any sort of multiplayer game. any sort of multiplayer shooter wants to be on as many platforms as possible right now, instead of like catering to a very specific audience that's just buying next gen consoles. So I think it would be a pretty safe and smart bet to say that's going to be cross gen. Final Fantasy 16 releasing in the next 12 months. Let's see, what month is it? It's March. It's a tough one. I think it's like maybe 50-50 for that time frame. So by the end of March 2022, it wouldn't I think I would it wouldn't surprise me, but I think it's a coin flip. I think that there's a good chance that we might get later in this year. And yeah, sure, that game has been worked on for quite some time, and they've really reined in the scope so they can really deliver on something that Final Fantasy fans will love, but that isn't going to bloat and become this like Final Fantasy 13 versus situation. Um, and then yet they still might say, okay, and we need more time because of COVID. The same dance that we've been doing for the last year. It's probably gonna happen. And it's probably gonna get pushed a little bit further down the road than they initially thought. But yeah, coin flip, I would say, in the next 12 months. Let's see. And it does help if you are like asking specific questions. If you at me, people who are adding me, it highlights it here in the OBS, makes it very easy to see. Um, any idea if we see Final Fantasy VII Remake on PC at the Final Fantasy Fan Fest? So what do we got here? We got the Final Fantasy Digital Fan Fest, May 14th and 15th. No, I would doubt that. Apparently, Final Fantasy Digital Fan Fest is very focused on Final Fantasy 14, the MMO. People have corrected me on this a bunch of times already, so this is where that's coming from. And I wouldn't get your hopes up for any other news about any other Final Fantasy properties at that time. Maybe we hear about it then. But if it's coming to PC, I guess where else would it get showcased? I don't know. So I guess there's still a possibility, but I wouldn't get your hopes up for it. Excuse me. Joe, okay, Jeff, this is from Lewis. Jeff, Hades will not be featured in this event. It was officially confirmed on Twitter. Thank you so much. Okay, so what is that? Okay, let's like, then what is this image even? Can we even trust any of this? My guess is that Hades might have been in discussion for the event and has dropped off, and now it won't be. But I don't know, or maybe this was just a lot of speculation. I guess I wouldn't be surprised now if most of these games don't show up. Like they already said, Second Extinction will be there, but have they said anything about these other games? Maybe Hello Neighbors 2, but they didn't say explicitly that the Gunk would be there. So if it's not there, I guess I wouldn't be surprised. So I'm going to dial my expectations down, back down a little bit, a few notches. All right. Let's do a few more questions, and then I'll end the YouTube video, and then we'll do a few more like off-topic questions if we need to. From the Palo Alto, will Dr. Mario also die on March 31st? Yes, Dr. Mario. It's going to be a murder suicide with Dr. Mario there. A lot of ats now. Okay, let's check this on. Okay, yeah, for Mitch Sampo, this is an over/under on Returnal, 80 Metacritic. I'm going to say over. I think Housemarque is a critical darling, and I think that they will win over a lot of critics. I'm not sure if fans will necessarily feel the same way, but I think I'm looking forward to that game just because of what Housemarque has done previously. So I'm going to say over. It might be like 81, 82, but I'm going to say over. See, from Chrono 0591, any kind of news on Everwild? No kind of news yet. I think that probably stuff is coming. It wouldn't surprise me if like that is one of like, if that takes a bigger spotlight at E3, and it also wouldn't surprise me if we don't hear about it again throughout the rest of this year and we hear about it in 2022. I think both those are possible. Izul 2003 asks, Eco? Man, yes. I think I might do another Eco game. If people don't know what that is, go look it up on Steam. It's an educational game that I have nearly 600 hours in. I think with my Discord, the community there, I think we might try to do another Eco game. So if it goes on sale, go ahead and try to buy it so you can come play with us. All right, from Joseph Reed. Joseph D. Reed is how I'm gonna say this. Is Nintendo no longer a wild card? Yeah. So wild card was there because we didn't know how Nintendo was going to respond to not having a showcase in June last year. and then not really doing traditional general Nintendo Directs, as we always call them. I think they have shifted mostly back to doing things the way that they used to. So yeah, they are less of a wild card. I think there will be fewer Twitter announcements, right? I think they announce Paper Mario. Was that the game they announced on Twitter last year? One of the games they announced on Twitter last year. I would expect fewer of those this year, and so inherently, yes, they're less of a wild card this year. My guess is that by the next big news thing that we get from them will be something around the April timeframe, because they want to begin filling in the gap left by the Mario celebration being over. And then in June, we get the traditional E3 timeframe Nintendo Direct. From Ool89. Do you know if Horizon sequel will release this year? I don't know, but I think so. It seems like that's the one that's really that should make it out this holiday. Like with everything else, could get delayed, but it seems like that one's ready. From R Phelps 81, could the ID at Xbox Showcase have any Shadow Drop games on Game Pass? I think they were very suggestive of that in the blog post. They said there'll be lots of news about indie games, and then there will be a lot of news about how the indie games are coming to Game Pass, basically. And I don't know. It seems like if this is going to be a big deal event for them in terms of indies, trying to make it a pretty exciting event that people feel good about watching. Shadow drops are like the easy, like that's like the gateway to our hearts, right? We saw a lot of cool stuff, and now here's at least one neat game to go try right now, and it's on Game Pass. I don't even have to pay anything extra. I can just go try it. My expectation is that yes, there should be. Also, there's just not a lot of games coming out right now, so if indie games were like waiting for something, like again, I think at that Indie World last year, around this time, I think we got a couple of shadow drops, at least one. So I bet there are some indie games that have been waiting for a show like this to drop. And if they are coming to Game Pass, then yeah, why not just use this as like a springboard toward your success? Let me pick out one or two more, and then we'll end the video for YouTube. From Mitch Sampo, whatever happened to that game, The Last Night, cyberpunk indie game that was announced for Xbox years back? I don't know. I think that game, that's one of the games that had some problematic issues, right? I believe the developer had said some harsh things about feminists, I believe. I can't remember exactly the details. I'm just recalling that he did have issues. And I remember like talking to the PR people that were working on that game at that E3 after all that stuff had happened, and they just looked defeated and beat down. And it's the kind of thing where it's like, if you start scaring away your partners because you're too much of a headache, it could cause delays in the game. Now, I also wouldn't be surprised if it shows up here, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it's just one of those things that no one wants to touch because they're afraid of the association with someone who has said things that have been considered problematic. All right, let me try to scroll through here, see if we can find some good ones. Dan the Brad, Supergiant hasn't released a game on Xbox since Bastion. It would be big for Hades to come over. I agree. It's gonna come to Xbox, right? Eventually. I guess it doesn't have to. It's selling so well on Switch and Steam. I would imagine most people involved in that game are feeling pretty flush in terms of their bank accounts at the moment. From Louis P, next PlayStation State of Play time frame. Don't know. PlayStation has gotten very locked down on everything. They are developers are afraid to talk. Not that my sources are like always developers, but I do know that developers are afraid of upsetting PlayStation because right now, if you upset Sony, they will retaliate. Now, I don't mean like it's not like they're gonna try to ruin your game or anything, but if like you were gonna be in one of their shows and you did something that might like upset their plans a little bit, they'll just take you out of their show. They're in that sort of situation right now, very touchy about these sorts of things. So it's been very hard to get information. And when I start hearing that side of things, I stop pushing as well. I stop trying to get information from people because I'm not interested in getting people in trouble or causing problems for people. The other companies right now are usually pretty chill, and even when I do something like when I blow the Mass Effect trilogy before they're ready to announce it, and then it gets delayed internally, so they delay the announcement. And people get mad at BioWare because Jeff Grubb is saying the game's going to get announced this time and it's not happening. Even when like that sort of thing happens, like EA is like, okay, well, I wish these leaks weren't happening, but they're pretty chill about it. And Sony right now is having less of that chill. And so again, I'm just pushing less. So the PlayStation State of Play timing, I have not been trying to fight out as much, just letting people sort of do their jobs and make their deals with Sony without me bothering them. Okay, there's a lot of questions here. This is a good one to end up with from Beef Hammer. How'd you get so handsome? It's just luck, I guess, and just God loves me more than most people, I think, is what happened there. Yeah. And it's not even like I'm a better person, but that helps being a better person. It's just these rosy cheeks and luscious hair. Really, you know what? Maybe it's because I'm a bad boy too. That attitude, people seem to find that attractive as well. I'm gonna stop now. I can't keep this up. All right, here's what we're gonna do. Let's end the YouTube video. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to get like a little bit of bonus stuff, feel free to check me out on twitch.tv/JeffGrubb. I do these live occasionally. Try to do it live at least once a week. Should probably do it more frequently, and I should probably get on a schedule. I should probably just start scheduling these so people can know when to tune in. I'm still figuring that side of things out, but if you just, follow me on Twitch, and I think there's the notification thing, hit the notification thing. So when I go live, you could tune in, join us here, and I'll answer a few more questions live for the folks here that are watching right now. All right, YouTube, take it easy. Goodbye. Chat's saying goodbye to YouTube as well.